Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbach. As always, we begin with appreciation to TorahAnytime.com for giving us this amazing platform to be Ma'aretz Torah throughout the world. We thank the new and reunited Kol Halosh in America, Kol Halosh in Israel, which gives us a global network, and we say hello to our viewers on YouTube, and of course to our wonderful listeners in Torah Communications Network, our subscribers, our Zoomers, those that are with us here in our flagship station at the Mkerestir Bezev of Fairways Lakewood, and anyone else who is viewing or hearing this on all kinds of vehicles that I don't even know. Good evening. The shir tonight is being sponsored by one of my dear Talmidim, Yisrael and Elisheva Fisher. Yisrael is a great patron of our Mishnah Yomis shir, and he's sponsoring tonight's shir in honor of his mother's Yartzeiht, Peril Bas Ruvain. Haneshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. She should be a Mlitzi Yeshara for our family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. It's also a happy birthday to their daughter, Rivka Bas Elisheva, on her 16th birthday, born on the first Yartzeiht of Yisrael's mother. This week has a lot of special days. And tonight's shir is going to be a little bit of an introspective on the great events of this week. Thursday evening is Lag Bomer. It's Hoyd Shibahoyd. Hilula de Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Lag Bomer, is the Yartzeiht of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar, which changed the world. He gave a new shine to the world. Zohar means a shine, a radiance. It's a remarkable thing that Shimon Bar Yochai, Shimon is spelled with a Vav, Yochai is spelled with a Vav, is exactly Gematria 553. It's the same Gematria as Mechaye Mason. Mechaye Mason, to resurrect the dead, is 553. Now, there are many stories about the wondrous events that happened on Lag Bomer. But this story is in our time. It took place 102 years ago, in 1923. In his Sefer, the Tzaddik and Mekubal, Rabbi Shaya Osher Zelig Margulius, said that he witnessed this story. He witnessed this Maisa. Like this year, 1923, Lag Bomer was Thursday night. And those that traveled from Yerushalayim in 1923, those that traveled in Yerushalayim to make an upsherin and dance on Lag Bomer could not get back to Yerushalayim, so they stayed in Meron for Shabbos. And as Rabbi Shai Osher Zelig Margulius said, they had a beautiful Suda, the covered Foyd Kiddush Shabbos. And you know that many people brought their children. After 3 years, the minig is to do an upsherin. And the minig was to do the upsherin on Lag Bomer. And one of the children, by the meal, all of a sudden stopped breathing. And as a doctor ran over, with great shock, they pronounced the child dead. And to make matters worse, the British, who were in charge then, said that it must be the plague, and they quarantined everyone in. They locked the gates of Meron, and family that was trying to get in couldn't get in, and those that wanted to leave and escape from what might be the plague weren't allowed to leave. And there was a tremendous commotion, and of course the great simcha of the day was ruined. The mother gathered her wits about her, took the child, and this is all mamish eyewitness account. Rabbi Shai Zelik Margolius writes this all down in the Sefer. She took the child and went into the Tzion and put the child near Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's Tzion. And she said 4 years ago she came here praying for a child. And that if she would have a child, she would be back to do the upsharon at the Tzion. She fulfilled her promise. How could she go back home without a child? She said, Heilige Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, be mekadesh shem shemayim berabim, show the olam the koyach of tzaddikim. Show the world the koyach of tzaddikim. And she went out. Minutes later, a voice was heard from inside, Ima, tzama'ani l'mayim. I am thirsty for water. They came back and the child was alive. This is not hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This is an edus of what took place by the Tzion of Shimon Bar Yochai, B'gematria Machayim Esim, in 1923. The British, it's recorded that the British were forced to admit that there was nothing wrong. They rescinded the decree and they opened up the gates. It was a public Kiddush Shem Shemayim B'Rabim. Now, I believe that this chord that show the kvoidon shel tzaddikim, the honor of tzaddikim, is especially important on Lag BaOmer, that the 24,000 Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. Because they died mipnei sheloi nagu kavod zeh lezeh. There was a lack of kavod HaTorah. And to the contrary, Lag BaOmer celebrates kavod HaTorah. The Zohar HaKadosh, we could start speaking about this the whole night, but we won't. But just one other comment. The Zohar HaKadosh in the Hashmatos, Bereshis Yud Ches Yud Ches, Yud Ches Yud Ches, can't be a coincidence, Chai Chai, double Chai. It says that there was a koyach that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai had, levatel hadin, to cancel strict judgment. And its Zohar cites that there was in Lud a terrible magefa, a terrible plague. So Reb Shimon Bar Yochai went to visit Lud, and he said, "V'chi yochel ani u'magefa v'dur ba'ir achas." Could I and a plague exist in the same city? And the plague immediately stopped, and a baska went out. Ashrei Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, fortunate Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, sheyesh lo koyach lahofer gezeres HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has the strength to annul the decrees of Hashem. This is the tremendous power of this day. The Yartzeiht Yediyah brings down that there's a connection, Moshe Rabbeinu revealed to us the written Torah, the Torah Hanigla, and Reb Shimon Bar Yochai revealed the Torah Hanistar, the hidden Torah. And there's a connection between Moshe Rabbeinu and Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. So the Oitzer Yedias points out one of the facts of the calendar year, that the day of the week that Lag BaOmer falls out on, that's the same day of the week that year that Zion Ba'adar, the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu, falls out on. And to make it even more interesting, it's really very interesting, that in that calendar date, it's also the same date of the year that the fourth day of Sukkot falls out on. And the fourth day of Sukkot, the way we make the Ishpizin, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David, is Moshe Rabbeinu's Ishpizin. So this points to a connection between Moshe Rabbeinu and Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Also, amazingly, Lag BaOmer, so it's amazing. It's an argument to say BaOmer and not L'Omer. Lag BaOmer, that's without a Vav in BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is exactly Gematria 345, which is the Gematria of Moshe, which is 345. It's really something really amazing. Another event that happened on Lag BaOmer, I'm going to take a drink, but I already made a bracha during the Daf Yomi, so you shouldn't think, God forbid, that I'm drinking without a bracha. Another event that happened on Lag BaOmer, remember that when we came out of Egypt, it says, "V'gam tzeidah lo yasu lahem," we didn't have time to prepare provisions. It says that the matzah that we took out lasted miraculously for a month. So that means it lasted to Pesach Shaini. Then we went 3 days without food. And then the next day, man fell. So that means the Chassam Sofer says that the first day that the man fell is Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer, therefore, is also a celebration of the man. That miraculous food that we got from Shemayim. Now that again links it clearly to Moshe Rabbeinu, because the man fell because Moshe Rabbeinu. As a matter of fact, we know that benching, which was written by a team of specialists, the first bracha of benching was written by Moshe Rabbeinu. The second bracha, Noidulcha, was written by Yeshua. The third bracha, Rachimna, was written by David and Shlomo. The first bracha Moshe Rabbeinu made on benching was made on the man. That's why he paralleled the bracha after the Torah. The Torah starts with a Beis, Bereshis, and ends with an Lamed, Leinei Kol Yisrael. That's why the Parahavan Zechtzad V'Kodesh Baruch Hu Yagam Aleinu Hashem Yinkum Dama, he says, the first bracha of benching starts with a Beis, Baruch Ata, and ends with a Lamed, Hazan Esakol. And it was made on the man. So the origination of the first bracha of benching is on the first day of the man, and that would give us a very big reason to bench on Lag BaOmer in commemoration of the institution of the first blessing on the man. It also explains why there's a minhag in many communities that the Chevra Kadisha, those that take care of the dead, of the Tara, of the dead, the Chesed Shalemis, they make a Suda on Lag BaOmer. This was actually an institution that was started by Rabbi Yom Tov Lipman from Preshburg. The reason is because the Chazal say that the man fell b'schus the Yeshene offer, the schus of the Avos HaKadoshim, and those that were already in the next world. Why? Because it says, Vatal Shichvas Hatal. There rose up a Shichvas Hatal, and the Medrash says, B'schus Shchuvei offer. in the schus of those that rested, shchiva means lied, but schus those were lying in the ground already. And therefore, since there's a connection between the mun and the dead, so therefore they make a Chevra Kadisha on the day that the mun fell, which is Lag BaOmer. It also means that while Lag BaOmer is a day for all kinds of tefillas, because there's a special koyach to be mivatal, strict judgment on Lag BaOmer, one would imagine that it's especially a good day to be mispal for Parnasa, because it's the anniversary of when Hashem gave the mun to Klal Yisrael. Now, this time of mercy actually started way before Lag BaOmer, this Thursday night. It started in the beginning of the week, at the time of Pesach Shaini, because this year we had a very unique Pesach Shaini, because Pesach Shaini fell on the last day of the fast of Bahab, right? Beis Hey Beis, on Shaini Tinyana, which was this Monday. It fell out Pesach Shaini, which caused a confusion. Those that fast on Bahab, should they fast on Pesach Shaini? The Marsham says, Paskins, the great Marsham Paskins, that on Pesach Shaini, you don't fast Bahab. But be that what it may, most people don't fast today for Bahab. It says, B'Yudalid Iyar, on the 14th of Iyar, Tirin Psichon. The gates are open. In other words, heavenly gates. Normally, it's not easy to get past the gates. It says, Shari Demois Leininalu. The gate of tears is never locked. But otherwise, they're gates. But on Pesach Sheni, Tirin Psichon, the gates are open. And the Reya Mehemna says that they remain open for 7 days. Shem Nisharm Suchim L'Zayin Yomin. Now, what opened these gates? The Chidush Erim, and this is a special Torah of Ger. The Chidush Erim says that when those that became Tameh within 7 days of Pesach, so they couldn't bring a carbon Pesach, because if you become a Tameh Meis, you need to have a Hazah with the ashes of the Parah Aduma on the 3rd and the 7th day. And when you're Tameh, you can't bring a carbon Pesach. So they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, Lama Nigara, why should we lose out? Says the Chidush Erim, their desire, their hishtoikikus, their want to fulfill the mitzvah of the Karban Pesach created a new din, created the din of Pesach Sheni. The Beis Yisrael, the descendant of the Chidush Erim, takes up on his ancestors' statement, and he quotes a pasuk in Yeshaya, Perek Nun Aleph, pasuk Dalid, Ki Torah me'iti teitzeh, a new Torah came out for me. The desire, the will, the unmitigated will of these Tmei Meis, the Ratzon, created a new Metzias, a new Pesach Sheni. This is what happened on Hanukkah. You know, The Yevonim, they wanted to stamp out the menorah. They recognized that the light of Torah, which we claim to be eternal, they wanted to show that it wasn't eternal. And they went around and they were metame, deliberately metame every last remnant of oil there was. They put us out of business. Now, it's very possible we could have continued lighting the menorah, utilizing the allowance of Tumah Hutra B'Tzimah. That if the whole tzibur is Tameh, then you could continue the Avodah B'Tumah. Could continue communal Avodah B'Tumah. But the Kahanim wanted to do it B'Tara. They wanted to do it the right way, the best way. And their Ratzon allowed them to find the one Pach Shel Shemen, which not only was sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, but since the Rabbanim were geyser at Tumas Zov on the Goyim, they would even be metame it behesed by moving it, even if it was sealed. But it says it was riveted to the ground with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, so we knew it wasn't even moved. This was a great miracle. But Hashem showed that if you want, you'll get it. There's a medrash, it's an unusual medrash, that's quoted by many darshanim. It's a very unusual medrash. You know, you hear a medrash and sometimes you don't know, where is this taking me? What am I supposed to make of this medrash? It's strange, it's a story, but this medrash doesn't seem to have an obvious lesson. The medrash goes as follows. There was a drunk. He was a hopeless drunk. Every night he would get shikker and fall asleep in a stupor, whether it was at the bar, whether it was at home. And the children, they were beside themselves. So one night, when their father was passed out in a intoxicated oblivion, they took him, wrapped him up in his blanket, and they put him down in the cemetery, amongst the tombs. And they figured maybe when he wakes up, and he's sober, and there's no wine around, and he finds himself amongst the dead, maybe that will be the shock treatment that he needs. Okay? Anyway, so they put him there, and towards the morning, some black market merchants were passing the cemetery with some bottles of wine when the mishtara, when the police showed up, and they didn't want to be caught with contraband, so they quickly threw all the bottles over the wall into the cemetery. And the man got hit by a bottle and it woke him up. And what did he find in the cemetery? A whole bunch of bottles of wine. So he started toasting the dead. After all, it was pretty grim being in the cemetery. Until the family found him again in the stupor, surrounded by all bottles of wine. That's the medrash. So what's the moral of this medrash? So Reb Elimelech Biederman says, Riley, some say that the motto of this medrash is don't try to teach your parents. It's not your job to reform your parents. That's not your job. It's going to backfire. But everybody that I saw, upon speculation, says that the lesson of this medrash is the power of will. If a man has will to have wine, he's going to get the wine even in the cemetery. Nothing. Ein davar oimed b'fnei haratzon. And on this day, the gates are open. 7 days. And we have to, it's really very important to work on will. There's a morale. Very interesting morale. We learned Makis, and I didn't mention this morale because I didn't know it. I just saw this morale last night. Morale in Prague. The morale says that there's a halacha that if two witnesses come and say that Chaim killed Chatzkel, and that therefore Chaim is guilty of murder and should be executed, if then two other witnesses come and say that you couldn't have seen Chaim kill the man in Lakewood because on that day you were with us in Dubai, so they become Eidim Zayimim. V'asisem loi, you should do to these witnesses kasher zomam la'asais la'achiv, to that which they wanted to do to their brother. Fact is, but we found out in time. And they didn't kill Chaim. So why do we kill them? I understand if we execute somebody for murder, but here the murder wasn't achieved. Why do we kill them? And we only kill them if they aren't killed, right? That's an interesting thing. We give a death sentence because they wanted, says the Maral. They created a murderous will. That will is very powerful. And the Torah says it's so powerful that it boomerangs back on them and gets them executed. Maral says that's the power of will. That's a very, very strong thing. The Panevizher Rav Kahneman, once asked the Chavetz Chaim, but you see people that have a will, they want to be Talmidei Chachamim, and yet they don't become Talmidei Chachamim. So you see, it's not always true that a will creates a reality. The Chavetz Chaim says they want to become Talmidei Chacham, but they want to have a good time too. You have to have a focused will. It has to be a focused will, a laser-like will. That's what Chavetz Chaim told the Panevizher Rav. A person has to, great lesson of Pesach Shaini, a person has to enlist this power in their lives. It is a great power, isn't it? The way a person goes, that's the way he's led. It's a very big thing. The Marsha in Masechtas Makis says that when we want something and we start our campaign, let's say a person makes up, you know what? I'm going to begin a Seder of learning. Say, makes a Seder now. The Mishneh Yomis is learning Pirkei Avos. I'm going to learn the Mishneh Yomis Pirkei Avos. I want to, it says, I'm andi meboy le'mahavi chasida. When somebody wants to be pious, let him learn Avos. I want to become pious. So he starts to learn Avos. As soon as he starts, he creates angels. And those angels are Malichim Oisai. We need to create for ourselves Ritzonos. The Holy Sfarim tell us that Ratzon is the same letters as Sinar, a pipeline. Because our Ratzon creates a pipeline from Shemayim to help us achieve what we will. It's amazing that there are people that don't have goals. I told you, what could we learn from sports? You can't have baseball without home plate. You can't have football without an end zone. You can't have hockey without a goal. In life, we have to have goals. We have to have ritzonos. This is the time for it. When else? We're in the Yemei Svira. The Yemei Svira, why do you think we start saying Pirkei Avos in the Yemei Svira? The Yemei Svira is the time that we reminisce about the Jews climbing from the 49th degree of Tumah to be ready to accept the Torah 50 days later on Har Sinai. It's a time where we think, what do I want in life? Especially a person gets older. What do I want? Well, I want to learn Shas. After all, it says, Ashrei Misha Bolakan v'Talmuda biyadai. What to be a VIP in the next world, what's the currency? Talmud. So a person has to have a mission, a want. Soon in the Daf HaYomi, we're going to be starting Seder Kachim. What a wonderful time to start Daf HaYomi with the learning of Kachim. It's two of the three pillars at once, because the world exists on Torah and Avodah. So when you learn Kachim, you're doing Torah and Avodah. It's an amazing thing. A person has to have a ratzon to be a good spouse. It has to be a ratzon. A person has to have a ratzon to be a good spouse. Reb Chaim Vital, when he was asked, how could you tell the character of a person? See how they treat their spouse. That's the character of a person. A person has to have that ratzon, that mission, that goal. Then if a person really wills it, so then b'derech she'adam roitza leleches malichin I say, ein davar I made b'fnei haratzon. A person has to have a ratzon to be charitable. All the money that we have in the money market fund, in the savings account, in stocks and bonds, in 401ks, that's not coming with us. It's what we give away. That's ours. So we have to have a ratzon to give away. We have to have a ratzon to know how to daven. A lot of people don't know how to daven, myself included. I say Haidu. I know what the words mean. But to synthesize the words together, to get a unified message, takes thought. A person has to have a will to better his davening. Every day to better his davening. That should be repetitive the same way every day, not knowing what you're saying. Then if a person develops a will, then it's going to come to fruition. And one should daven for these wills. In Shema Kaleinu, One should daven for divine help, for siyata d'shmaya. Now, in this month, here is Ani Hashem Roifecha. I am Hashem, your doctor, your healer. Even before Pesach Shaini, we had another great day. Gimel Iyar was the Yartzeiht of Reb Shayela from Mkerestir. Zeichet Tzadik L'Bracha, Zchusu Yagen Aleinu. Rabbi Wein says that the passage of time is a judge on things that people at their time were not sure about. You know, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, he was not a universally rarefied tzaddik. He was hounded. He was chased out of towns. It's only passage of time that we recognize what an awesome tzaddik and Talmud Chacham and Mabitz Torah he was. As a matter of fact, the Vilna Gaon revived him. Vilna Gaon said about the Mesilas Yesharim that he would crawl on his feet to go and learn from him. The Vilna Gaon. Everybody's in awe of the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon said until Pratei Anakiyas, in Mesilas Yesharim there isn't one extra word, but it wasn't so during his lifetime. The Hasidim initially were considered to be a danger. History shows us, as Rabbi Wein says, the Hasidim won. Look at their record. Look how they're keeping the Messiah intact. At the time that Reb Shayela lived, not everybody held of him. He was considered a very big tzaddik. I know that when he was in Hungary for a stay in the hospital, after he came out in the hospital, my maternal great-grandfather, Rabbi Yitzchak Yerovitz, was a wealthy man, and he had a special home, and I know Reb Shayela stayed in his house when he was convalescing. So our family has a connection to Reb Shayela. But in his time, there were Rebbes that looked at him, you know, what is he? He's a glorified Tomchei Shabbos. Now we know what an awesome tzaddik he is. With the passage of time, they say over that on Rosh Hashanah, before Tkiyah Shofar, when great Rebbes were buried in their heads in esoteric Zachin and saying Tillim for their Hasidim, he was in the kitchen cutting the kokish and preparing the platters. And he commented. He said, there are Rebbes that are occupied in Rozin de Rozin, secret of secrets. He says, I'm occupied in L'Sayva V'Lei L'Razain, that they should be full and not famished. There were Rebbes that offered him assistance. You know, you have a following. We could teach you the Chachmas HaKabbalah to read a kvittel. So he says in Mkerestir, I know the Torah Sanister of Yud B'Miluo, the Yud in its fullness. Now, okay, it's brought down that the idea of Yud B'Miluo is Yud spelled Yud Vav Dalid is 20. Plus the 3 letters is 23, and it's 3 tag, and each letter has a crown. That's 26. That's Yud Kei Vav Kei. But he says in Mkerestir, we know what a Yud b'Malaya means. We take a Yid that's hungry and tired, and we fill him up with food, and we give him mashke, drink, and we give him a rest, and then the Yud is b'Malaya, the Yid is full again. There was a big Talmid Chacham in Mkerestir of Prager. And Reb Shayela told Reb Prager with a big smile, "Ich geantwortet 7 Kashes mit ein Teretz." I answered 7 questions with 1 answer. So Reb Prager was excited which sugi it is. He wanted to hear the kasha. The 7 kashas answered with 1 yisoid. He says it came in a family, a mother and father and 5 children. And I sent them with a wagon full of food and drink. I verempfert 7 kashas mit eine teretz, 1 teretz. I have to tell you that I see this in my lifetime. I'm very close with Rabbi Youngreis, the Nickelsburger Rebbe of the Woodridge Shul. This man, as far as I see, is the Reb Shayela of our generation. I was involved with his opening of the shul in Woodridge. I spoke in the summers hundreds of times in his shul. First of all, it's a lesson to me of humility. I know I go up to the mountains. I want to relax. I want to play a little ball. I want to make a barbecue. Sit down in my chair on the porch with a sefer. I know him now for many summers. From early in the morning till way after 2 in the night. He's in the shul. I never saw him sit. Through hundreds of minyanim, he makes sure that there's always jelly beans for the children. There's kokosh for the men. All kinds of drinks. He calls out, do you need a chakras? You want to start in the beginning? Are you in a rush? You want to start in the middle? Maybe you're here for an early mincha. It's soon going to be time for Mariv. If you need a minyan, you need a kaddish. He told me that he never puts on his tefillin that it's the knot is the same size. People come in, they take the tefillin, they open the knot to adjust it to their head. Every day he says his tefillin has a different size. Here's a man that's completely living for other people. It's an amazing thing. I see Mkerestir before my eyes. No, that there's a story with Reb Shayela that a very, very tzibrochen mensch came into Reb Shayela. The Gabbai, who wondered what Reb Shayela is going to tell this man, made a little hole to see. And he heard the man first say a whole litany of tzaras. And then he said to Reb Shayela, I have only one solution. I'm going to kill myself. So Reb Shayela is nodding, I hear. He asked him, so how are you going to do it? He says, I was thinking of jumping in the river. He says, it's not a good idea. It might not be deep enough. It might not work. So he says, okay, I'll jump off the roof. He said, no, that's no good. A chashuv mensch like you'll lie in a very ugly way. It'll be not covedik. It's no good. And the man suggested one thing, another thing, and each one Rabbi Shayela found a chesaron. So he says, so Rebbe, what do you suggest? He says, you know what, you have to give me 2 weeks, I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come up with a way. The Rabbi is looking, and he saw the man leave with a smile on his face. Someone finally listened to him. Someone finally validated him. I have to tell you, I watched the Nickelsburger Rebbe. People come in. They come into shul in a bathing suit and a t-shirt. And they go up to this Hasidic mensch. And the Rebbe talks to them with such love. And he puts his hand on their head and gives them brachas. And the Rebbe said, are you hungry? You know, Rabbi, I didn't daven. He says, you come and eat something. He's a man. It says that if you give to the poor, you're blessed with 6 blessings. But if you mefaisei b'dvarim, if you appease him with words, 11 blessings. This is the man that made the viral song. Moshe is a big tzaddik, from his Kepler to his Fisela. Moshe is a big tzaddik. And he would sing it with boys. What's your name? Yasel. Yasel is a big tzaddik, from his Kepler to his Fisela, from his head to his toes. He's appeasing people. We just learned in Pirkei Avos, Olam Chesed Yibana. The world is built for Chesed. You know, we have Rebbes. The Rebbes give us vision what we could aspire to. Even if we can't do it all the time. But they give us a vision. Now, some Rebbes give us a vision of Hasmada. I think about Ramesh. I think about somebody who was always learning, was never idle. The Reb Shayela and Lahavda ben Chaim L'Chaim, Reb Youngreis, they give us a vision of to do chesed all the time. It says about Sari Menu that the son tried to get her. She couldn't get her because at 127 she was doing chesed all the time. He had to scare her with the news of the Akedah to distract her. That's what the Medrash says in Vayikra Rabbah. I had the schus of knowing somebody else like this also. My first Rebbetzin, Miriam Liba Bas Reb Aaron, she was a innovator in chesed. What do I mean by innovation? Lahavdil, there was another event this month, Mother's Day. Now, many people say, we don't follow Mother's Day. We don't follow every day's Mother's Day. That's good. But it's okay. It's not Kukas HaGoyim. It's not connected to Avodah Zarah. If you want to get your mother a Mother's Day gift, it's fine. It's fine with me. But my Rebbetzin Aleh Hashem took it to another stage. She had lost her mother 35 years ago. On Mother's Day, she didn't drive. She told me, go out and buy me 7 Mother's Day cards. Go and buy me 7 Mother's Day cards. And she would send them to 7 older women and write them, you are like a mother to me. She said to me, my mother wouldn't mind, and make an old person happy. Look how easy it is to do that. She had another thing. She would adopt sisters. Now, she had 2 wonderful sisters, but she would find an only child. So a woman, Chaya Glazer. She would find an only child and say, Chaya, you're an only child. You never had a sister. So from now on, you're my sister. And on her birthday, Chaya would always get a happy birthday card from her sister. Innovations in Chesed. I'm not a morning person. But my wife would ask me, Aleha Shalom, for permission to set the alarm clock sometimes for 4:30 in the morning. Why? Because that day somebody had surgery. And she said they're going to leave to the hospital at 5. I know if I call them in the morning and say I'm thinking about them, it's going to make the day better for them. So she would get up early in the morning to wish this person Hatzlacha. Innovations in Chesed. She would read the newspaper and she would read the classifieds, because she knew this person was looking for a job in a dentist, and this person was looking for a job as a mother's helper. She would cut out the things from the classifieds and mail it to them. Today we're more sophisticated. She would take a picture and send it, but she never had a cell phone. She would read in the paper, whether it was the Yated, the Jewish press, the first thing she would read was the obituaries. I would look at her, why are you reading the obituaries? She would tell me, Maish, do you know how many things you could learn from obituaries? They talk about the best of the person. So I learn a lot of things from obituaries. Interesting idea. A bus driver, she would find out when the bus driver's birthday was, and she would buy a cake for the bus driver on his birthday. She would, in the summer, when the sanitation people were outside, she would bring out cups of cold water for them to drink. Such an easy Kiddush Hashem. She used to visit once a week Clove Lake Nursing Home. She took down all the Jewish patients and she would find out their birthdays. And when they had a birthday, she would embarrass the family to come and make a birthday party. She would call them. She'd find out the family. And she would buy a cake and get them hats and make them happy. These are things that we could listen to. We're coming to Shavuos. On Shavuos, we're going to read Megillas Rus. Megillas Rus, it says, Ein bo loy tumah, v'loy tara, v'loy hiser, v'loy heter. So Mipnei Maba, Shmuel HaNavi wrote Rus. L'lamedcha schar gadol shel goymei chasanim. The great reward of doing chesed. And that's Torah. Torah's chesed al l'shayna. Yeshua was written about the Torah. Torah's chesed al l'shayna. The Torah is a Torah of chesed. I had a thought today. Those that are listening to the Eastern Coast, most of the Eastern Coast was shrouded by rain. Dreary skies and chilling rain. It's a real contrast to the beautiful sunny days we've been having. And I thought to myself, the Gemara in Masechtas Tana says, Gadol Yom HaGeshamim, great is the day of rain. Gadol Yom HaGesham, and it goes on to say, Gadol Yom HaGesham, Yom Shenivra by Shemayim V'aretz. Rain is a stupendous act of mass chesed. Animals, they don't have a refrigerator. They don't have a bar. They don't have a grocery. If they're not living near a water source, they're walking around thirsty. And thousands of animals, whether they're squirrels, whether they're rabbits, whether they're cats, it rains, they open their mouths and they lap up the water. It's an act of massive kindness. Besides the water filling the reservoirs and being there for our use. But it's just a massive act of chesed l'briyos. But it's shrouded in a dreariness. Why is that? Hashem could have made that the sun was out and it was raining and we feel invigorated. Why did it have to be dreary? And then I got to thinking, when Avram Avinu did his grand act of kindness, which is used as the model of kindness, in the third day of his circumcision, he went and he took care of the three angels. What an amazing act. They were dressed. They looked like sand worshippers. That's what it says. Avram Avinu told them, wash your feet. Rashi says, wash off your idolatry. They worshiped the sand. Why did Hashem introduce chesed in such an unsavory way? I believe it's to teach us that chesed isn't always attractive. It's not easy to bury the dead. Most people really get depressed. It's not easy to go to a hospital or a nursing home that smells and reminds us of our own mortality. These things are not easy. Interrupting our course of time to go and celebrate a wedding when we have other things to do. It's not always something that's easy. And that's what we're being taught. That's the greatness of chesed, of being selfless. I noticed that while we were talking, Yisrael Fisher came on. He dedicated tonight's shir, L'ilui Nishmas, his mother, on her Yartzeiht, Peril Bas Ruvain. Her neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. She should be a mlitzi yashara for the family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael, and for the honor of the 16th birthday of their daughter, Rivka Bas Elisheva, born on the first Yartzeiht of his mother. This is a good time to say that we are looking for sponsors. We do not have a sponsor for next week's share. If you would like to sponsor, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also, we would be excited for you to join our Zoom DAF family. You could join. It's very easy. It's not rocket science. You have to have Zoom. You just upload Zoom. It's for free. And then put it in at 8:35. Next week it'll be 8:40. Motzei Shabbos is 10:32 blot. You put in zoomdaf.com, and then you're asked to give a code, which is the initials of Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss, RMMW, all capitals. And we'd love to have you join our Zoom family. I also want to tell my audience that we're learning now Mishnah Yomis Pirkei Avos, So after the Ma'ariv, we have to wait a few minutes to count Svira. So I started a series called Quick Thoughts on Pirkei Avos. Tonight, the second one will be available. Somebody wants to sponsor that series, they could do that as well. Again, the number is 718-916-3100. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.